Welcoming Ray to the Hall of Fame is Reggie Miller. Ladies and gentlemen, Ray Allen.
So finally, I was sitting here thinking, and I watched so many great speeches tonight, and there's one person that's not here that I have to mention their name. That's Michael Jordan. As a 14-year-old kid, I was sitting in my bedroom, and I seen him come down the lane. He turned around, he jumped in the air, he hit somebody's body, and he threw the ball off the backboard, and it went in, and it seemed like he wasn't even looking at the hoop. And I said, I have to be able to do that. That has to be me someday. So wherever Mike is, I want to tell you that I wanted to be like Mike growing up. As I stand here on the stage today before you, I know a lot has been said about me being a great shooter, being one of the best. But what I know, this person that is presenting me tonight, Reggie Miller, is the best shooter that I've ever seen in my life. Thank you. Reggie has had a profound effect on my early years in the NBA. I would come out on the floor thinking I was early, and he was already out there, and Reggie had a Superman shirt on. And when you see somebody, your opponent, wearing a Superman shirt, you have to ask yourself, how do I beat Superman tonight? It was impossible to guard you, Reggie. Reggie would grab my arms, and he would throw me in one direction and go in the other. And then the coach would get mad at me. And I said, Coach Calhoun didn't teach me that in college. I learned so much, and I appreciate your example, the bar you set, to be able to break your record. I didn't know this record existed. So thank you for everything you did for me and this game. So in Reggie's eyes, in my eyes for Reggie, it seemed like he had a plan for everything. I knew I had to plan if I wanted to be successful. So growing up, I lived in many different places because my dad was in the U.S. military. He was a metals technician in the U.S. Air Force. My dad... My dad, Walter Ray Allen Sr., he was quite an athlete himself. He played semi-pro football and basketball on the bases where we lived. While my mom, Flora Allen Hobson, she played basketball as well. She was tough. Her nickname was Truck. She definitely would run you over if you got in her way. Basketball was definitely the family sport, for sure. My parents, they instilled a competitiveness in all of us. Me, my brother John, my sister Kim, my sister Christy, Talisha. We all played every sport growing up. So if you can only imagine in our household, you know, some of the greatest competitions took place over who had control of the TV remote. As a kid, I was coached by two of the most influential coaches that I had in my life, in Jeff Lynch and Phil Pleasant. Thank you, Jeff and Phil. They taught me the fundamentals of the game that stuck with me throughout my whole career. They exemplified the idea that it takes a village, a community, to raise a child. As a kid, we moved to Shaw Air Force Base in Sumter, South Carolina, where I learned to take my game to another level. At Hillcrest High School is where I groomed my talents under the tutelage of Coach Jim James Smith. I played ball every weekend at the base gym with my dad in the men's station at Shaw Air Force Base. And these guys definitely didn't take it easy on me. Those days were where I made a lot of my growth. I spent the summers playing AAU ball, which attracted many coaches from around the country. And one in particular, Coach Jim Calhoun. Under Coach Calhoun, I really learned how to work. I learned how to compete. I learned how to be a better person. I learned how to eat breakfast. So many things today that stuck with me. And Coach Calhoun told me a long time ago, I was walking off the floor with a few of my teammates, and we're all like, we had a great practice, and I'm thinking that I had a great, or did a great job. And he calls me over to him, and he said, did you make 100% of your shots? And I said, probably about 85. And I looked at him, he looked at me, and I knew what he was saying. He said, if you want to be special, you have to do the special things that the other players aren't willing to do. And for that example, Coach Calhoun, I thank you tremendously, because I am who I am today because of you. The University of Connecticut is where I made most of my bonds. You know, some of my best friends, my best brothers, Kevin Ollie, Donnie Marshall, Danielle Marshall, Rudy Johnson, Kurt King, Marcus Thomas, Ruslan Yatkin, Brian Fair, so many young men that helped me figure out who I was in life. From the University of Connecticut, I move on to be drafted number 5 in the NBA draft. And my first stop was Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I spent 6.5 great years. I had incredible teammates there in Glenn Robinson, Vin Baker, Sam Cassell, Tim Thomas, Michael Redd, to name a few, and Chris Ford was my coach. I had some incredible individuals that taught me how to play the game of basketball. And from there, I moved to Seattle, Washington. And I spent 4.5 great years in Seattle as well. In that time, I really learned how to be professional and how to be a leader. I made a few all-star teams. I played a few games into playoffs, but never did I reach the ultimate prize. It wasn't until my 12th year in the NBA, first as a Boston Celtic. And where in my 12th year, I paired up with a couple of future Hall of Famers in Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined that I would have been on that stage the way I was. So for all of this to happen, it took basketball mind and Danny Ainge to make this possible. So thank you, Danny. In my 17th year, I ended up with the glorious Miami Heat franchise, where I won my second NBA championship and ultimately playing with 3 future Hall of Famers in Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James. Which, again, wouldn't have been possible without the tutelage of Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley, for sure. Thank you, Pat, and thank you, Eric. Those 2 championship years, as some of us in this room know, were some of the hardest years that I've ever experienced in my life. The constant grind and the feeling of never being good enough kept us working. I really learned on the days, the nights that we won championships, you think you want to go out and celebrate, you think you want to go out and party, but those days you realize that you didn't win the championship on that day, on that night. You won a championship that day when you got up, when you had 2 games or 4 games in 5 nights. You went up, you went to practice every single day. That's when you became a champion. Repeating those boring old habits every single day, performing your craft, getting up, getting on the treadmill first, eating breakfast every morning. You got to remember that. Hitting the gym, getting on the treadmill, lifting weights, and again, getting shots up. This was my routine every single day. And what's so incredible about it is that I loved it. I wouldn't have rather been anywhere else in the world. And oftentimes, in committing so much to basketball, meant that some other relationships in my life would suffer. Most of us in this room know this all too well. We have strived for the ultimate pursuit of perfection, oftentimes missing holidays, missing birthdays, and countless other activities at home. Through this whole journey, I had an incredible partner by my side this whole time. My wife, my beautiful wife, Shannon, thank you so much. You have been the ultimate partner, GM, fan, ball kid, whatever it is, you did it. And as many people have seen what I've done on the court, it was always you behind the scenes that made my pregame meal. I left my shoes at home, you brought them. It was you that made the sacrifice, and you know, without you, I wouldn't be where I am today, so thank you. This is not a me award. This is all about us. We all sacrificed. My mom, Flo, thank you, Mom. Everything that you've done for me, you've instilled greatness in me. Even when I didn't know I had it, you told me there's nobody better than you. So thank you. My dad, he's the greatest shooter in our households. My dad could shoot with his left hand and his right hand. But when I truly knew that I was doing something with my life and my career, we were playing against each other. And my dad we used to go to the gym every Saturday and Sunday mornings. And my dad left me this one morning. And I was mad that he left me, but I called my other friends up and we met him at the gym. And so what was bad for him was that we ended up being on opposite teams. And this was the first time he saw the bottom of my tennis shoe. How do you dunk on your dad and not feel bad about it? But I honestly felt like I arrived at that moment. So a lot of my expertise and my growth comes from Walter Ray Allen Sr. So thank you, Dad. John, Talisha, Kim, Christy, you guys, you know, no matter where I went in life, I always knew that I had to represent, you know, the Allen children. So thank you for always pushing a good example and always being in my corner. You gave me the courage to go into the world and be the player that I knew I could be and the one that you knew I could be. To my kids, you are the best of me. You are my greatest legacy. Tiara, you are an amazing individual. You've helped me stay focused when you came into my life as I was a kid myself. Your spirit is amazingly bright, and I believe you will change the world. Ray Ray, you constantly impress me with your kindness and with your passion. I always tell you that you can do whatever you choose because you are a warrior. Walker, you have the biggest heart and the greatest joy of anyone in the world. I love to see when you walk through the door. Hence your name, Walker. You're always walking through the door, and I love it. I love when you come through the door with that huge smile on your face. Winnie, you remind me most of myself. You have such a kind soul, and you have an awesome spirit, and you're an amazing big brother. Winston, my baby boy, you have such a great heart. You keep all these boys in line. Your smile is so contagious, and when I see it, I know all my troubles will go away. I love all of you. All of you kids are my greatest legacy. I learned in life that our kids pay attention to everything we do, everything we say and everything we don't say, and everything we don't do. So I have to be an example to these young people at all times, and we got to make sure that we're a great example to the kids in our lives at all times, because we do set the tone and the example in all of our communities. I tell every young person that the orange ball is truly magical. The things it's done for me, the people it's allowed me to meet, the places that I've been able to travel to, the world it's exposed me to, the things I could have never imagined. Truly an incredible journey. I played in the Olympics in 2000 with the USA team. Thank you, USA Basketball, for holding a place for me and allowing me to stand on that stage as a representative and ambassador of this great country, and all my great teammates that I played alongside. It's been an amazing ride, and at this moment I want to just say thank you to everybody that's been a part of it. I learned everything I know just from watching the guys that I've played alongside in every city. I want to thank all the coaches that I've had in my NBA career. There's so many to name. I've had a couple coaches that get fired, but we still love them as well. Doc Rivers, Bob Weiss, Mike Longobardi, T. Lue, Chris Ford, Eric Spoelstra, Nate McMillan. There's so many to name, and so many people have influenced me. And as I sit here, I still hear these coaches in the back of my head telling me to get back on defense. I wake up in the morning thinking I need to get back on defense. I want to thank all the people from all the bases that I grew up with. Castle Air Force Base, California. Ramstein Air Base, Germany. Bentwaters Royal Air Force, England. Edwards Air Force Base, California. And Shaw Air Force Base, South Carolina. Thank you to all the enlisted men and women around the world serving our country. If I didn't play in the NBA, I certainly would have been going toe-to-toe with these people all over the world, protecting this great country of ours. I want to thank the cities that have taken me in and allowed me and my family to be a part of their community. Storrs, Connecticut. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Seattle, Washington. Boston, Massachusetts. And Miami, Florida. I loved every place that I lived, and I met some incredible people in each of these cities that will be family for life. My only regret is that I had to leave, but I want you all to know that you will always be a part of my heart and my family, and I'll be always a part of your communities. I don't believe in talent. I'm here because I worked hard my whole life. Without that work, no one in this room would know who I am except my family. So to all the kids around the world watching, paying attention, and aspiring to be like one of us or even on the stage someday, put the work in and watch the magical ride you go on. Thank you to the Hall. Thank you, Fran, for your amazing work that you put in this week. Thank you to all of my fellow inductees. What an amazing class that I'm a part of, being able to parallel some of the careers that I've had the opportunity to parallel and play against some of you guys and grow up watching and admiring you. You set such a great example for us all, and you continue to set that same example. So I'm humbled and honored to sit here and be a part of the class of 2018. Thank you all.